Victoria Reed knew she had become a target long before she found the proof. That morning, a headline appeared on the front page of a local newspaper. The woman behind the Reed Foundation crisis. Victoria's photograph covered nearly half the page. Within hours, hundreds of negative comments flooded social media. Donors who had once shaken her hand at charity events began keeping their distance. Some even refused to answer her calls. The strange part was that Victoria had never done any of the things she was being accused of. But in the world of power, a lie repeated often enough can begin to look like the truth. Meanwhile, at the Reed estate overlooking Lake Michigan, Eleanor Reed continued to present the same flawless image she always had. She comforted board members. She reassured donors. And in front of everyone, she always appeared deeply saddened by the mistakes Victoria had supposedly made. Daniel Reed watched everything unfold in silence. He neither confirmed the accusations, nor did he deny them. That silence hurt Victoria more than any accusation ever could. She had spent nearly 10 years building charitable programs for the foundation, yet now she was being treated like a complete outsider. Then, on a cold, rainy evening, as she returned home, Victoria noticed a brown envelope placed directly outside her office door. Inside were copies of financial transfer records. The name of a media company appeared again and again throughout the documents. At the very bottom was a small note. Only one sentence. The person destroying your life is sitting at your dinner table every night. Victoria felt her heart sink. For the first time, she no longer believed this was simply a cruel rumor campaign. Then, a few days later, while passing by the study, she heard Eleanor's voice through a partially closed door. After the fundraising gala, everything will be over. She'll sign the divorce papers and disappear from this family forever. Victoria stood frozen in the dark hallway. But what Eleanor did not know was that the woman she was trying so desperately to push out of the family was far stronger than she appeared. And from that moment on, Victoria began preparing for a battle that no one saw coming. The Reed Foundation's annual gala arrived far sooner than Victoria had expected. Guests filled the grand ballroom of a luxury hotel in downtown Chicago. Crystal chandeliers cast shimmering reflections across elegant evening gowns and tailored tuxedos. Laughter and conversation echoed throughout the room. But beneath all that glamour was a plan that had been carefully crafted for months. Victoria entered wearing a simple dark blue gown. Heads immediately turned in her direction. Some eyes held sympathy. Many carried suspicion. And more than a few people had already believed everything the media had been saying about her. Across the ballroom, Eleanor Reed stood surrounded by donors, wearing a confident smile. She knew exactly how the night was supposed to end. After delivering a speech about family values and community responsibility, Eleanor suddenly asked for everyone's attention. The room gradually fell silent. She held a white folder in her hands. Her voice was calm, yet cold. Sometimes difficult decisions must be made to protect a family's legacy. Then, she placed the folder directly in front of Victoria. Divorce papers. A wave of whispers swept across the ballroom. Victoria did not look at Eleanor. She looked at Daniel, the man who had once promised to protect her through every storm. Daniel lowered his head. His voice was so quiet it nearly disappeared into the silence. Everything has already been arranged. In that moment, the last piece of hope remaining in Victoria's heart shattered completely. But what surprised everyone was her reaction. She did not argue. She did not cry. She did not show anger. Instead, she calmly signed every page. Eleanor smiled in triumph. She believed she had finally removed the woman she had always considered a threat. Then an elderly voice echoed from the back of the ballroom. "Wait." Attorney Martin Hayes slowly rose to his feet. In his hands was a document that had just been discovered among the paperwork. The color drained from his face, because what he was about to read had the power to change the fate of the entire Reed family. And for the first time that night, the smile disappeared from Eleanor's face. The entire ballroom fell silent as Attorney Martin Hayes opened the aged document. He read each line slowly and carefully. Years earlier, the founder of the Reed Foundation had added a special clause. If any family member was deliberately defamed, manipulated, or pressured into divorce for personal gain, control of the family's assets would immediately be subject to legal review. Several guests began turning toward Eleanor. She responded with a sharp laugh. "It's a meaningless clause. You have no proof." At that moment, Victoria quietly rose from her seat. From her small evening bag, she removed a silver storage device. I do. The atmosphere in the ballroom seemed to freeze. A few minutes later, Eleanor's familiar voice echoed through the sound system. Release the articles in stages. I want the donors to lose confidence in Victoria before everything is finished. Whispers immediately began spreading throughout the room. Then came more recordings. Payment records. Internal emails. Private exchanges with a media company known for running smear campaigns. One piece of evidence after another appeared on the giant screen. One hidden truth after another surfaced after months of being buried. The color drained from Eleanor's face. Several donors quietly stood and left their tables. A few board members turned away and walked out without saying a word. Across the ballroom, Daniel stared at the screen with tears gathering in his eyes. For the first time, he truly understood what he had lost. He started walking toward Victoria, but she simply shook her head. It's too late. Martin Hayes continued reading the board's temporary decision. Pending the investigation, Victoria would assume oversight of several foundation operations. The woman who had once been treated as a burden had now become the only person capable of protecting the legacy everyone was desperately trying to save. Victoria slowly removed her wedding ring. She placed it on top of the divorce papers. Then she looked at Daniel one final time. I waited far too long for you to stand beside me. But starting today, I will stand beside myself. With that, she turned and walked toward the grand doors. Outside, the rain was still falling, but this time, every step felt lighter than the one before. Because in the end, she had not only reclaimed the truth, she had reclaimed her life.